I'm Oliver Cox. I'm the CEO and founder of HSM, Hyperstructure, Hypermedia. Today, knowledge professionals typically spend about 20% of their workday just searching for information, which raises the question, why? In my view, this happens because the most popular productivity apps don't make it easy to express, to store, to retrieve relationships. And in my view, this problem goes all the way back to 1991 and to the World Wide Web. What you're looking at here is a hyperlink. It has two parts. The part on the left there, the URL, and the part on the right is the anchor text. The word link implies that several things are connected, that they have a relationship between them. This information here only has one thing in it that's actually identified. The text is not. This means that this link is meaningful. It's only a connection in its original context. If I abstract it from the web page where it was made, it means nothing. It's therefore useless as a means of expressing, exploring the structure of things and how they relate to each other. What do we need? We need an environment where we know how things are related. And we need an environment in which you can visualize the connections between things. And as you've no doubt guessed, I have a recommendation, which is the application that you're looking at right now. It's called Koyas, and it's the world's only relationship-first app. As you can see on screen, it displays text, and if you regard the information bar on the left there, as I click around, you can see that it updates, and it shows the type of the thing that I've selected, its text, its unique ID, and its parents. So right now I'm clicking a word, its parent is of course a sentence. If I select the first paragraph here, you'll see that it has two parents, this whole chunk of text here, which is called Koyas, and a link is the parent of that paragraph as well. The link contains the two paragraphs. What does it mean to be the world's first relationship, the world's only relationship-first app, and the world's first relationship app? This means that links are things, that links are uniquely identified, and that links know what they link to. If you regard the left information bar again, you can see that as I click down here, I'm selecting links. There are 3 links that pertain to the text on screen. And as I select them, you can see that they're each individually identified and named. And they know what they point from and what they point to. All of this knowledge is stored. Now, you'll notice that I've cleared the screen and I have a link selected. So I clicked on the link, it's selected now. And if I hit this button, this will instruct Koyas to open the object that I have selected. So I want you to imagine, what does it mean to open a link? I'm not clicking on a hyperlink and going from one web page to another. I have a link that contains 2 things and I'm about to open it. What will happen? Well, simply, Koyas will inspect the link, look at its endpoints, take up too much memory, and it will bring forth those endpoints and draw a connection between them and then use even more memory. This is an example of how you can actually use Koyas in practice. On the left is a marketing agency scope of work, and on the right is a minutes document. And I've created 2-way visible links between the headings in the scope of work and the headings in the discussion document. So were I inspecting this as a marketing manager, as a CEO, I can instantly look at these 2 information sets and see how they relate in a 2-way fashion. And now, memory permitting, I'm going to show you one more thing. So the paragraph that I just clicked on points to one of the articles that the marketing agency created. And Coius is currently chewing on it now. This is work product that the agency has created. And as you can see, we have we have a link here between this sentence and this paragraph here. This paragraph is an edit request, which points directly in a two-way fashion to the article. So I can pull up the article, I can see that this sentence is linked, and I can know that it links straight to this paragraph here, and I can see what needs to change. Just as I could, if I wished, pull up the minutes, find the article, and make the edit. You can see here that the link in question is called feedback. So I, as the editor, will know precisely what to do. Now, let me close these things. Okay, it looks like we've got some memory back. Remember what I told you earlier? Knowledge professionals spend 20% of their workday looking for information. Imagine with some of the tools that I've shown you, and maybe with a bit more memory and a bit more efficiency and maybe a faster database, imagine if we could give them back 5% of that time. So make it so that knowledge professionals are spending 50% of their days looking for information. When you remember that companies typically spend about 70% of their money on their employees, that starts to be real dollars. You could make a real difference to a company's bottom line here. What's my challenge? Paradigm conflict. The World Wide Web, the way we do links, that broken link structure that I showed you earlier, is the normal way in which we think about things. And when people look at HSM, when people look at Coius, most people don't understand. And a lot of people look at it and say, this is complex, there's a lot going on here, I can't really get my head around it. What I need to do, what I must do in order to raise money, in order to get this into people's hands, in order to start helping people to get the benefits from this, I need a way to explain this to people. I need a way to show this to people in a way that, that moves them and shows them what it can do and that they can understand. And I, of course, when people don't understand and when people respond by saying it's complex, I own that. I control the information here. So I need to change how I explain this, and I invite your suggestions. Thank you.
I wonder if it would have been easier maybe for us to understand it if you had set it up as a story, as an explanation of what the situation is, who you're helping, and what the benefit of them is going to be before you get too deep into the technical bit that we weren't really expecting. Mm-hmm. So, that real person, real problem, having something that helps them in a way that you can quantify. And then maybe there's actually several different use cases like that. That would have been easier for me, I think, to grasp what you were talking about earlier sooner.
I think what makes a good problem and solution slide is if you can quantify the scope of the problem, and then as you have more data from real world usage, even better if you can quantify the solution over versus some other standard industry standard, kind of like the example you talked about, 20 minutes versus what if you saved a quarter of that and dropped it to 15 minutes. So as you have more data, but yeah, problem, solution, product, traction. I kind of think that's the clearest way to sort of set it up and humanize it around to his point. Yeah, a real problem.
What I would say to support what they said is showing you started off, I think, hey, imagine kind of helping us to set up what the potential problem could be or relating to a real life problem in real time. And then taking us through to what that solution would be and how this is the solution. And giving, Henry said, kind of an example. Okay, you're a business owner. You take this amount of 20% of your time is spent looking for information, researching information, trying to aggregate information. Here's how this is going to help you minimize that, and then walking us through what that really looks like. And I'm a big supporter of however authentically you want to present what you do in whatever format you want to do it in. But I think also it's a hard audience to know exactly who's going to be here and what purview they might be sharing from. So maybe looking at, okay, if I'm sharing with just an open audience who has no idea what I'm doing, and I have to take them through the whole process so they can go from no idea to they kind of feel like experts because I explained it so well to, or, okay, I'm in front of this particular audience. So they may already have an aptitude for technology and for what I'm, certain verbiage that I'm using and understanding. So I think just taking a little time to say, okay, let me position it to if no one knows what I'm talking about at all. And starting from there and then figuring out what's the shortest way from no one knowing what you're talking about at all to understanding what you do, how you do it, why you do it, and why it helps us.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
When I was watching this happen, I was like, wait, this is just reminding me, and pardon me if I'm oversimplifying it, like this is just me trying to wrap my head around it. I was like, oh, this is like Gemini. Like when I'm using Google and it has like Gemini AI built into it, because at the place that I work at, we kind of have considered switching over. So I work at like an agency, so there's like tons of files for every client and like figuring out where was that email? Did we actually send them like this? Did we follow up on this? Whatever.
You feel the pain.
Yeah. And so they are like, oh, we'll just use Gemini, which is really frustrating because Gemini actually doesn't work like that. Like they'll say, ask Gemini, like if you sent that email. But I guess because of some of the like privacy restrictions or different things, Gemini will respond with like, I don't have access to that, or like, I can't process that information or whatever. So when you were going through this, it kind of seemed like something that could take that information struggle to another step. And something that is just culturally very relevant is AI and the takeover of AI and how we process and sort information. And depending on your audience, like Cherie said, it might be a good starting point of like, you're familiar with Gemini, you're familiar with ChatGPT, like we can prompt it with these questions, but a lot of the time it kind of leaves us hanging when it comes to really specific details, and then leaning into how this is able to serve them better than the tools that we're kind of being told to use with this expectation of like, well, why can you not just find what I told you to? Like, you have the tools, and it's not true. So I think appealing to people's pain points in that way and approaching it with super culturally relevant terms will help them have that trust for you of like, I feel like this guy could really solve my problems and also make me look better at work,
That's really interesting. And this is something that Dustin and I have spoken about, which is I think our culture is at something of a fork in the road right now. And I think there's at least two approaches to solving the problem that we have, which is too much information, more information that we can organize, not knowing where things are, not knowing whether you sent the email, not knowing if this is the correct document, etc. One approach is to say, okay, we're going to get a colossal data center and take that disorganized data and make an AI model that can maybe understand it and then give us an answer in natural language. Fine. The other approach is to organize things better and build tools that actually allow you to make connections between your assets. And instead of having a black box AI model that can't actually tell you how it's thinking, you can actually have this graph of information that you can actually explore and see. And I think my prediction is that the AI stuff is going to cause us big problems, particularly environmental problems, because of the massive data center energy needs. And I wouldn't be surprised if we end up in a future where what AI we do use uses my back end, because you won't have to sort out all of that disorganized data. It'll be organized data, and then you just want to put a natural language front end on it. But that's, I really appreciate that, and that's really useful feedback. Thank you.
The second you started showing the documents linked to each other, it made a lot of sense. To be able to see both of them at the same time, to be able to say this directly relates to that, absolutely. The user interface scares the bejesus out of me. And I'm someone who's like been tech adjacent my whole life. So like I've never been the one to do any kind of coding. And I've been like a Mac user growing up. So like anything that makes me think this was built by somebody who uses Microsoft. Yeah. Way
As a
over my.
Linux user, you sure know how to hurt me.
That's even more. That's even more. But the general gist of the user interface is one that would take somebody knowing that they want to use the tool, that has the time to really delve into what everything means to be able to figure it out. So there's an element there of needing to understand the lay person that would be your end user to be able to figure out how to make it an interface that works for them. And as I'll agree with the format of the presentation, the beginning had me a little in the ether of like, where is this going? And then the second you showed it, I was like, that would help me in a certain number of tasks that I do regularly. This feels like the different Google Docs that I make that I have to link other Google Docs to make sure that the teams that I work with who are not a part of my organization understand what I'm talking about and like know where everything is. Or the worst is when I'm working in Teams and Google Docs. So there's that.
So yeah, the basic data structure is like this thing that I've got selected here. It's a sentence, right? And that sentence just has an ID, a string of text which names it. So this sentence would be like 1.1, and then it has an array of other UUIDs, which are the things within it. And that's like an arbitrarily long array that you can put as much stuff in.
Okay.
Which is, I think kind of what you were saying.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if this is the right conversation to have right now, but I learned of early graphic-based database use cases when Neo4j started putting stuff out. There's like the world of ecosystem building or thinking about complex adaptive systems is thinking about nodes and relationships and sort of gravity maps of which nodes have the most dense relationships with others and all that stuff. And the thing that can get a lot of people to comprehend it is when you're able to show a visualization that's not just two connections together, but like you can show, say, hey, for this project, we have these relationships across the thought, the mind map, whatever you want to call it, that touch, our sales pipeline, that touch, there's so many directions you could take this that
You're telling me.
Yeah. It feels like there could be a portion of this where you show people the back end visually so that they comprehend the complexity of the database without actually needing to look at, it's not a spreadsheet in a graph-based or relational database like this, but yeah, you know what I mean. So
You want to see something terrifying?
yes.
That's what my back end was doing all through the presentation.
Yeah. And I know, I know a graph-based database or a relational database is more like a neural network, and it's much less data intensive than doing the same queries of massive databases that are just traditional spreadsheets. So like, absolutely, you would use less processing power. If you want to talk about the fact that like OpenAI is just going by sheer mass, and then we look at the other one whose name escapes me right now. DeepSeek. They thought about architecture better. they were able to make the algorithm more efficient, and therefore it did so much better at a much cheaper cost. The actual architecture, and that's where you're going with this. Is the back-end architecture is a big piece of it. So I feel you there. I just think, I get where you're going with that. Find a way to make it address the individual user who would have a use case where those two documents relating directly to each other regularly would be clearly of value to them.
Thank you. That's really, really helpful. Thank you.
But yeah, I echo some of what was already said. I think not coming from the tech industry or world, I was a little confused in the very beginning, but once you showed the relationship and the arrows connecting the columns, that was helpful. I think what would have been helpful is kind of bringing us all along on the story. Like who is the main character, which is for you is your main target customer. So who is that person? I don't really know. I mean, professionals is a large, very general term. So I would love to hear who you think would most easily benefit from this, or maybe like would be your fastest customer, early adopter, if you will. And like use that as your example in the story that you bring us along. Like, this is this is so-and-so, she works at so-and-so company, and like give that as your example of the problem to make it super tangible, and that we can just visualize it in our mind. And then it kind of, here's the solution, and here's why it matters, and here's the time it's saving her or them. And yeah, there's just this, I think it was Donald Miller, I read somewhere, and it like really was powerful, and I think you could benefit from it. People don't necessarily buy the best products, but they buy the things that they understand the fastest. So the faster that you're able to kind of break this down in a tangible, easily digestible way, I think the better you are at finding those early adopters to test it and then give you feedback on like what can be better, what can be improved, what do they want to see. So I'd say find the people that you think are your target customers and start testing this with them.
Amazing. Thank you so much.